So it's been a while since we've done an official Phasmid Files video, and I'm quite excited for this one because this is a species that, although is available right now, not that many keepers actually keep them. Hello and welcome back to Bug Rounds. On this channel we like to discuss all things creepy crawly, so if that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing to the channel. So you'll have to excuse my voice today. I've got a bit of a sore throat, so I sound a bit croaky and a bit horrible. I hope you can push past that and just enjoy the footage for today. So it's been a while since we've done an official Phasmid Files video. Some of my previous stick and set videos I'm still going to consider as Phasmid Files, even though it didn't say it in the title, and providing I remember, they are all going into the Phasmid Files playlist. So bear with me, you know I'm rubbish at producing playlists, right? So it will appear in there at some point. So today's video is about the Periphetes graniferum. Not actually sure if I've pronounced that right, but that's how I've always said it. And the reason I'm not sure is I've never heard anybody else talk about them. This is a really, really cool species, and I do believe there's eggs still going from somebody on eBay at the moment if you wanted to get your hands on these. I will also be selling probably one batch of ova, but please don't message me about it. That will be done through one of my live streams where I sell on the ova. Now, the reason I've chose to do this species today is because, unfortunately, my very last mature male has passed away. Now, this isn't a particularly long-lived species, but they do lay a fair whack of ova. And the female in here, she's probably only got up to maybe another 3 months at most left of her life. And I don't plan on continuing keeping this species, just plan on distributing the ova. And the only reason I don't plan on continuing keeping them is because I am lowering my amount of bramble eaters in the collection and taking on ones that have either privet or more specialist food plants, just because they're the ones I didn't keep so much back along and I really want to learn about them. So I think we're going to just crack straight on then. We'll have a look at the mature male first in detail, because these are really, really beautiful. They've got a lot more colour to them than the females, but the females are still equally beautiful in their own way. So let's learn about this species, shall we? So while you check out the beauty of this mature male, let me tell you some notes. So their PSG, or Phasmid study group number, is 357, so 357 if you wish to look them up. Their food plants are bramble and also apparently pyracantha or maybe even salal, but I've only fed my ones exclusively on bramble. So this species was actually first described back in 1859, and it was first described as Phasmid graniferum, which of course has now changed to the Periphetes. They came into culture in 2010, and they come from the Philippines, so in Samar Island. So let's talk about this mature male specimen first off. Now, mature males only really live for around about 2 to 3 months. So it's a really short lifespan, folks. Now, I actually was unfortunate to have 4 mature males and only 1 female out of the batch of nymphs that I bought, but that's okay because we have a living female specimen to show you. So what is cool about this male? Let's have a little closer look at each body part and discuss that. So look at the end of this abdomen, this black, weird, rounded edge. Really, really interesting shape, right? And they actually kind of almost wave these when they walk around. It's really, really cool. So if we move up from that, excuse the blurs, this is a macro lens and it's a little bit hard to do freehand. So we then move into this green coloration followed by orange. Now this is a very striking orange. It does have a glossy sort of finish to it, but it's actually very granulated if you look properly. And we move up from the orange and we go back into that aqua green head. Really, really pretty. Now their antenna reasonably long, as you can see here. This one only actually has one left, and each of the joints has that slightly more blue aqua colour, so you can see where it moves on from what, well, you would probably call a shoulder, moving down to each joint. The rest of the legs are almost black, navy blue, and each joint has that aqua-y colour, and I just think that is really, really stunning. Look at that sort of knee joint there, really cool. Down to the feet, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now I don't want you to have to just stare at a dead specimen, so for the rest of the information we will be looking at an adult female. So here is an adult female. Now the lifespan of these is around 4 to 7 months, so it really does kind of vary depending on how well they're kept. But yeah, she will be putting on some age now. They start to lay their ova only within a couple of weeks after maturity. I will show you the ova in a bit. It's very, very tiny. It's actually quite hard to find amongst the poo of the enclosures. They're really abnormal shape too. Now I am struggling to get some focus on this girl, so you will have to bear with me. Now she might seem a little bit more boring than the male maybe to you, but she isn't to me, and I will show you why in just a second. There is something very different about females of this particular species. But before we go into that, let's just look at what we can see here first. So with a little zoom in, she's got quite a plump abdomen in comparison to the rest of her body. There's probably eggs in there ready to go. They lay quite a lot of eggs, but obviously I only had one female, so I haven't witnessed it. Now reports say that they can lay up to 50 a week. Mine is not doing quite that much, in fact quite a bit less than that, but that's what the report said that I read on this species. But perhaps I'm wrong. I will actually have a proper dig through the enclosure and see how many I can find, and I'll update you guys when I do that live stream on if I was wrong. Now you can see, although she also has long antennae, they are a little bit shorter in comparison to the male, if you compare it to the size of what his body was. Focus, camera, focus. Well, let's switch to the macro and see if we can get a focus that way. Yes, that's all right. So again, we have a metallic sort of green coloration with those same aqua blues, but going all the way almost across the legs there. Really, really beautiful. Same with the start of the antenna. Same granulated body going along, but this time in a more aqua emerald green. But I love the colour of the legs. Now, I'm going to take the macro off again for a bit because I want to show you what is so special about the appearance of these. But here, this is what I want to show you. She has a yellow underside. Now I'm actually blocking the light. Let me see if I place her down, if she'll stay on her belly for a moment. Nope, she doesn't want to, and I don't want to cause her much stress. But you can see it there. Orangey yellow underside. Really, really interesting. Now she was struggling to grip on the shiny plastic surface of the bottom, so I'm going to let her grab onto some leaves. But she's still in fidget mode. You see, if I let her go, she drops. She's an absolute nightmare. So yeah, if you are getting this species, prepare for awkwardness when it comes to changing food plants, because they will literally flop and throw a fit all over the place. So if you're a keeper that freaks out by kind of fidgety movements, this will not be an animal for you. But if you're used to keeping phasmids, or that doesn't bother you, then that's fine, but you will have to be careful. Obviously they can survive a drop, they're naturally adapted to do that, but we don't want that to continue happening. You can see now she's perfectly still. Now she's on the ground, she's feeling safer, she's feeling that the predator's now disappeared, and normally she would be sat there in undergrowth, so she would be camouflaged. But yeah, she is fascinating, right? Now these guys mate quite frequently, but unlike some species, the male does just kind of walk off afterwards. He's not going to stay on her back the entire time. It's quite funny to watch them mate, especially with his larger, flatter, black abdomen. And then hers. It's just an interesting observation actually. But I had 4 males, I think, to this female, and I had to separate them now and again because they were just harassing her. It was just male after male after male trying to get to this female, and it was just causing her some stress. So when the first 2 males died, I was actually grateful because she was not being pestered so much. But now they're all gone, she can live out her life, continue laying the last of her eggs until she dies. Now, being a Filipino species, they do tend to share one thing in common, and that is that they like airflow, but they also require humidity. So that's always a little bit of a pain to deal with. What I recommend is either keeping kitchen towel on the bottom and keeping that constantly moist. So you spray it till it's a bit wet, leave it to dry out before you spray it again to stop mold growth, and then just continue that on, and it will raise the humidity of the tank. Or alternatively, put an actual substrate layer down and keep that damp. The only problem with that is the fact that you will not be able to find those eggs. I can promise you now, those eggs will be near impossible to find on a substrate layer bottom. But if you just plan on letting them hatch naturally, that won't be an issue. Look, she stayed perfectly still ever since she dropped to the ground there. So I guess we should look at the ova now. I'm going to do that bit very, very quickly, and I'll tell you how I would keep that ova if I was keeping it for myself. Ta-da! You can see now why that will be difficult to find in substrate, right? It's an abnormal shape, but put in amongst poo or soil, you're not going to find these babies. Now, it was really hard to get this to focus, so I'm not going to show you all angles, but yeah, that's it. That's a little bit of ova. Now there is one more. There you go, you can see a different angle by looking at that one. Really, really cool, but they're really, really small. So the lid that you're seeing this on is on one of those tiny, tiny lids for those tiny, tiny rubs. And by tiny, I mean the ones that fit in those tiny little stacks. So these are really, really small ova. So there's how you can see how small the lid is. Right, that tiny over there. Now you have to excuse the mess on the table. It has been a cleaning day, hence all the bramble everywhere. And some of my Phasmid notes are over here. Now the one thing I've read, now I've not reared these from eggs, but on breeding reports it does state that there is a massively high mortality rate in the nymphs. So a lot of nymphs do not make it. So if you're only buying eggs, guys, I would get around 50 to 60 eggs to start this off, because if you go for the average of 30, you are going to be less likely to be successful, and you'll just end up with a few, and then you also have to try and keep those nymphs then alive as well. So yeah, you really want to go for more eggs of these. They're pretty good at standard room temperatures, so you don't have to worry about an additional heat source or anything like that with this species. And I personally like to keep these ones' eggs on vermiculite, just because it holds and retains the moisture levels but does prevent molding. Now I'm not sure how prone these eggs are to molding, but the poo of this species is very prone to molding, very, very prone to molding. So when you've got eggs mixed in with the poo, that's going to be awkward. So I think if you keep these on a substrate bottom, guys, you're really going to have to add springtails or some form of cleanup crew there. Right, I'm going to get this girl put back. Oh, she's doing it again. She's doing it again. Look at that. Look at the complete hissy fit these guys have. Sorry, I cut off because she dropped again. So yes, I wouldn't recommend these for children or for stick insects you want to handle, because this is going to continuously happen. And although it might be funny to watch, it is actually stressing the animal. So I actually picked her up then to put her back, but she's causing me some mayhem, so I'm going to do that off the camera. You're going to want an enclosure at least 30 centimeters in height for these. Bigger the better, but 30 centimeter minimum from around sub-adult stage onwards. So I think we're going to call this an end to the video. I have noticed that my microphone has brushed against the bramble a couple of times, so I'm hoping that hasn't disturbed this too much. And along with my croaky voice, it's probably not the best of Phasmid Files. But I hope you enjoyed it regardless. And yeah, as I said, I'm going to try and sell some of these eggs on a live stream, so keep your eyes out for that. If I ever do a live stream, it will be on a Wednesday, but it will not be the Wednesday coming up, guys. So I'm going to go and pop her back. Thank you all for watching. Oh, good. I'm having to actually enclose my hand so she doesn't drop here. Come on, gal. Back in you go. Awkward species to try and do a Phasmid Files video on. But yeah, shame about the males, eh? Where have I put that body of that male? I'll find it in a bit. One top tip as well, if your stick insects do die, guys, and you keep isopods, chuck the bodies in with the isopods, because they get a nice source of protein, plus they get the plant matter that the stick insect has been eating. They'll also even eat the stick insect poo. So it's really, really useful if you're an isopod keeper, or even a cockroach keeper as well, actually, alongside keeping stick insects. And another top tip is their poo is actually very good fertilizer for your garden, a natural one. So yeah, I'm going to call it an end here. Please let me know if you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you want more Phasmid Files videos coming up. Well, there's gonna be regardless. I'm just talking. I need to shut up. Goodbye. Thanks for watching. Take care.